Growing up, I've always preferred DC over Marvel. And when Iron Man came out in 2008 and opened the world up to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, my brain only went to what DC could bring to its fans. Yeah, I wasn't really happy with most of it. Although the Snyder Cut of Justice League is my second favorite comic book movie ever, most of their releases have ended up towards the bottom of my rankings. So when Birds of Prey came out right before the pandemic, I was left really unhappy with a lot of time on my hands, and so I created my own version of what I would have done with the DC Cinematic Universe after Man of Steel. My universe covers 4 phases and 37 projects. And if you're subscribed to my channel, you've likely noticed I've been uploading shorts going over each individual movie of my phase 1 already. This video will just recap it all up in one spot in a nice little bow, going a little bit more in depth in each movie. To keep things kinda realistic, I took elements of the real life DC extended universe, things like castings, sometimes entire plots of movies, and general things like that, kept those in my universe, as well as the format/formula created by Marvel with their universe, to give myself a crutch, because I'm a composer, I'm not a storyboard writer or anything like that, so I might be a Kevin, I'm no Kevin Feige. So though I did have that type of crutch to help me with writing this, and I think it helped me a lot. So let's go and dive on into what I would have done in my phase 1 DC Cinematic Universe. I started my universe as if Man of Steel had been made and how it would continue. So in 2013, it's the exact same thing as what we got in our real life, and that is Man of Steel released exactly how we got it. General Zod is the villain, and literally no other changes. Then in 2014, in real life, we had nothing. Same thing in 2015. We didn't get another project until Batman vs. Superman in 2016. I think there's 2 years there of valuable time that we could have spent fleshing out and really creating a good universe. So in 2014, I simply have one release, and that is Wonder Woman. And that's the exact same thing as how we got it, except for one small detail. And that is I would recast Steve Trevor. Now, I don't know who would play him. I don't have an idea. I did a lot of castings for this universe, but I couldn't really think of someone for Steve Trevor, so insert no-name actor, if you will. I have other plans for Chris Pine. This Batman movie takes place in 2015 for a couple reasons. Number one, I wanted to start this universe with the Trinity getting their movies. However, I wanted to space Batman to be last because of the Dark Knight trilogy finishing in 2012. This gives a 3-year gap between the end of that trilogy and the start of Batman in this universe, which I think is a fair amount of time. Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland for Spider-Man's gap was only 2 years between The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Civil War. So I think 3 years is a decent amount of time for spacing. Now, when it comes to the actual storyline for the Batman movie, it's fairly simple. Again, I'm no storyboard writer, so I'm just going to cover the broad strokes, and very rarely in a movie will I go over more minute details. So here is my idea for a Batman movie for just open up the world. Bruce is in between Robins at the moment, as Dick Grayson at this point had already left to become Nightwing. I have Bruce Wayne being Batman for about 9 to 10 years at this time of this movie. The movie opens up with a battle against the Joker. Now, again, how I say I have, it based off my universe, based off the DC extended universe, I have Jared Leto still playing the Joker. I know a lot of people have problems with Jared Leto. I personally think he is not the greatest Joker in the world, but I think he still does a decent job, and I think he's been robbed of his performances. I think his method acting stories are a bit crazy and a bit over the top, but I think, you know, if given a proper script and given good direction, that he could have actually been a decent Joker. So if you choose to have somebody else, you know, picture somebody else in your mind, you do that. For the sake of this universe, I kept Leto. So the movie opens with a battle between Batman and the Joker, just your fun battle. At the end, of course, Joker is defeated and he's brought to Arkham Asylum and put under the care of Harley and Quinzel. I think we all know where this is going. While a new villain known as Deadshot shows up, I do not have Will Smith playing him this time. I have Jackie Earle Haley. DC fans will recognize him as Rorschach from Zack Snyder's Watchmen. While this is all happening, I have Joker getting escaped by Harley Quinn, and Joker escaping through Harley Quinn after she eventually turns, right after Deadshot gets put into Arkham. As Batman goes to chase down Joker and Harley after getting weathered by Deadshot, Harley sacrifices herself to save Joker, getting put into Arkham herself. And that's the end of the main idea of the movie. It's not the greatest Batman movie, I'm not gonna lie. My other two Batman movies I have planned in the future's phases, I think, are a lot better than this one. But again, these are just the broad strokes. I do have two post-credit scenes planned for this movie. The first post-credit scene would be Amanda Waller and or Rick Flag coming to recruit Harley Quinn and Deadshot for the Suicide Squad. And this is going to be like a juxtaposition of Nick Fury and Agent Coulson recruiting for the Avengers, of having two characters come in and recruit for villain team. And then the second post-credit scene would be Batman after the climactic fight with Joker and Harley Quinn would return to the Batmobile to find that its tires are being stripped by a young teenager. Now, this is of course Jason Todd, aged roughly 13 to 14 years old. So older than Dick was when he started being Robin, but still young enough to still be considered a Robin. So the next movie I have in my universe is also taking place in 2015, and that is my Flash movie. Now, obviously, Ezra Miller is under a lot of controversy nowadays, so I have simply recasted him and chosen Lucas Till, a pretty popular fan cast that I just happen to agree with, to play my version of Barry Allen. Now, since a lot of people, due to the Flash TV show, have become much more familiar with the origin of the Flash, I have opted to not make this an origin story, as we've already had two of the past three movies be origins. I'm trying to shy away from that. This is going to be more of like a Spider-Man Homecoming type origin story, where it's not how he got his abilities, it's more of how he learns to be a hero. So at this point, Barry Allen has been operating as a vigilante for a couple of months, and is far from a perfect hero, but still has great motives and a good heart. He has a functional suit, but is nothing like what we see in the Zack Snyder universe. This is because, well, Barry Allen doesn't have the best funding, but he does have a suit that's strong enough to withstand high speeds and the Speed Force. So, again, think of like a slightly more high-tech version of Spider-Man's Homecoming suit for the Flash. Throughout the movie, he's fighting small goons, and he's crushing on Iris throughout, who I also have being played by Kiersey Clemons of the Snyder Cut. Partway through the movie, we find out that an Aussie shows up and starts just causing mayhem all over Central City, and this is Captain Boomerang being played by Jai Courtney. A lot of fun banter goes off between the two, and the Flash realizes how serious of a villain and bank robber the Captain Boomerang is. So this creates a fun initial villain for him to kind of go up against that doesn't have the biggest stakes. So by the end of the movie, of course, Captain Boomerang gets put into Iron Heights, the Flash learns how to be a better hero, and him and Iris truly start dating by the end of the movie. I do have post-credit scenes, and it's simply just Waller and Rick Flag, one of the two, if not both, recruiting Captain Boomerang for the Suicide Squad. With the Green Lantern movie, it is not a Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart type movie. I have this movie being based on Sinestro and Abin Sur, played by Mark Strong and Luke Evans, respectively. Now, for all of my DC fans out there, you might already recognize Mark Strong's name as Dr. Sivana in Shazam. I'm sorry about that. In Shazam. I have recasted Dr. Sivana as a different actor, and have chosen Mark Strong to reprise his role from 2011's Green Lantern as Sinestro, while Luke Evans I seemed as a great actor who I think would be a good job as Abin Sur. So the story is going to show how Sinestro will go from being a hero villain to more of like an anti-hero type role towards the end of my universe, while Abin Sur shows you the shoes that Hal Jordan will eventually need to fill, as, spoiler alert, I have Abin Sur dying at the end of the movie. So in this movie, it's simply Parallax causing mayhem across the galaxy, as Sinestro and Abin Sur are sent to kill him by the end of the movie, and Sinestro succumbs to the power of fear and inadvertently kills Abin Sur in an attempt to kill Parallax. This, of course, causes Abin Sur's ring during a post-credit scene to go off and fly off into Earth, fly through a sign that says Coast City, crash into a window. You hear a scream from a bedroom as the camera would then pan down to a mailbox that reads H. Jordan, hinting at Hal Jordan's future as a Green Lantern. This would take place around the same time as Man of Steel, so this would give Hal Jordan a few years to get his training done before he would later appear in my Justice League movie. It is the exact same as we got it in real life, except I have casted Emilia Clarke as opposed to Amber Heard as Mera, and I have stripped the movie of all Justice League references, as this movie now takes place before Justice League. Still starring Jason Momoa and having Ocean Master and Black Manta as villains. Now, 2017 is my final year for my Phase 1, and I have two movies. Now, the first movie is a sort of sequel. It's a soft sequel for three of our characters, that being Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, as they are each respectively 4, 3, and 2 years away from their last movie, which is usually the right amount of time for a sequel for, characters in the Marvel universe. Now, since there are so many characters as opposed to the Phase 1 of Marvel, I decided to give these three characters a soft sequel in the form of a Trinity movie called Trinity. Now, I take a lot of inspiration from Batman vs. Superman, where less emphasis will be placed upon Batman and Alfred, now including Jason Todd, who I didn't mention was played by Curran Walters of the Titans TV show, and we'll also have Barbara Gordon, played by Alexandra Daddario, although she'll be in a limited role in this movie. And more emphasis will be placed upon Superman and Wonder Woman, as they didn't have a lot of, screen time or speaking parts in Batman vs. Superman. As a fun fact, Spider-Man in Civil War has more speaking lines than Superman does in Batman vs. Superman. It's crazy, but it's true. Now, in this movie, instead of having Lex Luthor and Doomsday as villains, it's just Lex Luthor, who I have replaced Jesse Eisenberg, who I think did a great job and has great writing for Lex Luthor. I just think it's a horrible miscasting in favor of my opinion, much better casting. Bryan Cranston. Essentially, Walter White will return as Lex Luthor. By the end of the movie, Lex Luthor is defeated, and Superman and Wonder Woman specifically are talking to the media after the battle. No Batman. And they are talking about how when push comes to shove and when they are needed to fight a battle that not one of them can handle on their own, they will team up with Batman on call if needed, as well as Robin, to take on bigger villains. And the media then dubs this small team the Trinity. Now, in this movie, I also do have the Batman versus Superman face-off. And instead of having Superman at the end of it say, "Save Martha," as that is, I think, horrible writing for a great opportunity, I think instead, Superman should say, "Save my mother." I cannot take credit for coming up with this change. I found it on a video that I can not find for the life of me. But just know I do not take credit for coming up with this change. Instead of him saying "Save Martha," he says "Save my mother." In this moment, Bruce Wayne Batman is essentially holding the entire life of Clark Kent Superman in his hands. He can end him if he wanted to right here, but because he says now "Save my mother," he's now thrusted back into a flashback of his own childhood and notices he has become Joe Chill for Superman, and that if he goes through with this, he becomes the very thing he swore to stop. And so this would be the powerful catalyst that will force Batman to not kill Superman and later, shortly later, team up and save Superman's mother. If you really want that Martha, that they're both of their moms are named Martha, how about having it here where after the warehouse battle, Batman, while he's saving her, she's a bit shooken up and is stressed beyond hell. And Batman simply asks her to calm her down. What is your name? Where she says Martha, giving Batman an element of some closure to his childhood trauma, which I think would be a great way to have essentially the same connections, just told better. In the post-credit scenes, we do see Sinestro forming and putting on for the first time his new Yellow Lantern ring, as well as having an army of Yellow Lanterns behind him do the same, hinting at Sinestro being my villain for the Justice League movie, as well as the second post-credit scene having Barbara Gordon just figure out who Bruce Wayne and Jason Todd are in real life and donning her first Batgirl costume. Now, I take a lot of inspiration from Marvel's Infinity War because I don't have a character like Nick Fury to really round up all of these heroes. Hal Jordan is, again, played by Chris Pine in this universe, is fighting Sinestro while in space and is clearly losing, similar to Thor and Hulk in Infinity War. Jordan's ring will fly him off to Earth, similar to how Heimdall threw Hulk, and Hal will land in Central City, where he is now found by Barry Allen. Now, Barry Allen takes him as he's yammering on about entities of fear. He takes him off to his hideout, takes his ring as a precaution as he's smart enough to decipher that that's his source of power, and Hal is able to explain enough to Barry about the situation to make Barry trust him. Now, again, Barry's a beginning hero, and luckily his trust issues work in his favor in this scenario. Since this takes place shortly after Trinity, Barry suggests getting the Trinity for help. They meet up with the Trinity in the Batcave, and the team is now talking about, similar to how the Thanos situation gets explained to the Guardians and Tony Stark, what is happening with the Yellow Lanterns. While this is happening, there is an attack in Hawaii, which is causing a lot of volcanic activity. Looking at news reports, they can tell that there's a bunch of yellow constructs, and Hal is able to explain that these are the Yellow Lanterns of Sinestro's core, and that they should go and stop this. When they arrive, they notice that there is a lone hero fending off what he can. This, of course, is Aquaman protecting Hawaii. Now, there are a few more fight scenes. The team fully introduces themselves to each other, and of course have their problems, but know that they need to work together to defeat Sinestro and the Sinestro Corps. By the end of the movie, Sinestro is defeated and Superman banishes him to the Phantom Zone. And we finish the movie off with the construction of the Justice League Watchtower. My final post-credit scene, teasing my Phase 2 big villain, is the Crime Syndicate. Now, thank you all for watching. Now, when I say that I cannot tell you how many hours, if not days, went into making this entire universe and video, believe me when I say I cannot tell you. It's been so many. I started writing this in the winter of 2020, shortly before the pandemic, and was making edits even this week, July of 2022, to make this universe what it is currently. And I will probably continue to make edits up until the final video comes out, and potentially even afterwards. So what I guess what I'm saying is if you enjoyed my Phase 1, click that like button down below and comment what you would have done differently from what I would have done, or what you would have done in your entire Phase 1, if you have any ideas like that, of course. Subscribe so you don't miss another one of my shorts and videos going forward covering this, as well as my other videos. And as always, have a very lovely day.